I'm ready to start throwing down some geometry and using these parts and pieces to establish the overall shapes of my train. This isn't going to be one piece. This is going to be probably about 100 pieces, 100 small pieces that are all going to work together to create the illusion of the train itself. Every single one of these objects in the reference image is going to be its own geometric object. Now, there's a little bit of a sequence here that I'm going to recommend. We don't want to work initially entirely inside of object mode. Of course, we could go in and create an object mode, a cube that works. And then I'm also in object mode right now. We can go in and make, I don't know, a sphere. We can, have a whole bunch of different objects. And if we look carefully, especially in our outliner, we have a sphere object, we have a cube object, we have a lot of parts and pieces. We can certainly do that. But there is one alternative idea here. Whenever we do the Add Object pull-down menu and go into the Mesh section, it's making an entirely new object. Well, what if we want to just add geometry into an already existing object? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me get rid of both of these objects. Return to our right view. And of course, we always need one mesh object to begin with. The primary shape of this is a big cylinder, this fuselage, the boiler of the train. So let's start there. I'm going to go ahead and Shift A, add a cylinder. I'm pretty happy with that. Now let's rotate it around the x-axis, excuse me. Now before I do anything, but this really is step number one after the object is created, I'm going to hit the tab mode. I want to try to do as much of this in component mode as I can. At times, when we start to translate and transform at the object level, these values in here and the location of the rotation can have a negative influence on any modifiers, bevel operations, and any number of things. So it kind of turns into a sticky little beast at times. However, if we're disciplined and always work in edit mode, we're almost kind of setting ourselves up for success, which is pretty good. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm in edit mode. Let's just scale this down a little bit, and I'm going to rotate it around the x-axis. So rotate x to rotate along the x-axis and then 90 degrees. I'm pretty happy with that. Now the front of our train, this little polygon here, is going to be facing the front of our scene, which is what I'm after. Hit the L key to grab all of that. Let's return to the the right scene and start getting this roughly in position. Now, we're going to have a whole bunch of these cylinders inside of the scene. Let's scale it down here and start making a small model of this train. Now, I'm looking very carefully at the picture here, and I'm pretty liking that. That's a good start. When modeling, we want to try to model around the origin of the scene as much as we can. Notice that I'm not moving it away from the middle of the x-axis. If you look at this from the top, this green line that runs down the center of the scene, that's the representation of the middle of the x-axis. I like that. We want to have it in the center. That way, we can create a very symmetrical shape, and the tools give us some more options, specifically something called mirroring. More on that in a minute. So we need to make sure that all of the central elements of our train, the parts and pieces that are in the dead center, remain in the middle of the x-axis. So let's grab that back polygon. And I think I'm just going to hit the grab tool to fire it off, hit the middle mouse button, and just drag it along the y-axis to right about there. That's where the reference image kind of tells me it needs to go, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now, this is a good location, a good starting location for the center boiler of our train, but I need a whole bunch of other parts and pieces up here for these little smokestacks. And I think this over here, this cube, is supposed to be some sort of light. Now, I certainly could go in and add a new object, but check this out. Since I'm still in edit mode, Shift A doesn't add a new object. It adds a mesh shape into the existing object. Let me draw your attention real fast to the object that I'm currently working on. It's called cylinder. Let's just rename it train. Let's get to work. Okay, so I have an object called train, and I'm going to continue to add new geometry into train. And we do this while in edit mode. Please remember, in edit mode for this to happen. If you're in object mode, it's going to create a new object. Okay, let's do it again. Shift A, and now I'm just going to add in another cylinder. Now watch the outliner. What didn't happen? We didn't add a new object. That cylinder went inside a train. We added the data to this data packet right there, which is pretty cool. And now we can go ahead and scale this down. We can move it where we want it to go and start blocking out all of these parts and pieces. Now I'm going to work fast here, just using the grab tool. Something like this. Yeah, I'm getting very, very specific here. Maybe a little too specific. That's okay. Grab, hold down middle mouse button and drag down, which snaps it to the middle of the Z-axis. I'm liking that. And now I'm just going to push that bottom polygon so that it sits right smack dab inside of the boiler of my train. I'm happy with that. Let's return to the right view and turn the visibility of my train reference item back on. Now, you're more than welcome to go ahead and continue to add new cylinders into the scene, but don't forget about your duplication tools. Since these are all just cylinders, there's nothing to say that we can't just do Shift-D, drag out our friend, scale it up a little bit so it matches the overall proportions. Something kind of like that. Let's grab that topmost polygon, that guy right there. G key to grab, middle mouse button, drag down along the Z-axis to get it where we generally want it to go. And if you missed it like I did, that's okay. Let's just drag it up, and we're ready to go. It goes pretty fast. Even make another one. Scale this guy up. Scale it up. There we go. Somewhere right around there. Yeah, that's pretty good. Something like that. Let's move that top polygon where we want it to go. And I'm a happy camper. It goes pretty fast when we're adding objects inside of an existing mesh object. It's pretty neat. If we continue to examine the details of our outliner in our scene, this is what we've constructed, and this is what our outliner looks like. Just a singular mesh object. You're more than welcome to have multiple mesh objects and then join them together, but this is a fast, easy, conducive workflow that I think is pretty neat. Okay, let's talk real fast about how we're going to tackle maybe some of the more complex parts, especially this little cabin right here. This is where the train conductor would sit and turn all the gears and knobs and what have you to make the train go. And how in the world are we going to make these windows, these openings? Well, this is a great time for us to return to a certain degree to kindergarten, to building blocks, to Legos. If you were to construct this out of Legos, this bottom section would be one cube, and then these vertical pieces would be a whole series of cubes. Let me show you real quickly what I'm talking about. I have the tab key go into edit mode on my train object and do Shift-A. Let's just add a cube into the mix. It's way too big, so let's make it a lot smaller just by hitting scale, grabbing it, and moving it roughly into place. Something like that. All right, let's get it where we want it to go, somewhere right around in there. Now let's get the height where we want it to go. Grab that top one. Move it down somewhere right around in there. I'm happy with that. Let's grab that back polygon. Same thing. Hit the G key, grab it along, move it along the Y-axis, and there it is. We've established the height and the width of that wall panel. But don't forget, this is 3D modeling. So we also got to figure out how deep it is along the X-axis as well. And this is where your artistic interpretation gets to come in. All right. So there's my little wall panel. I like to create one wall panel because it goes without saying that the upright sections here should probably be the exact same thickness as the wall panel that we just created, this guy right here. And this speaks to the workflow that we've been talking about this entire video, is that we have one mesh object and then we're duplicating elements within inside that one mesh object. Since we've already established the width of the wall on this selected cube, let's hit the L key, make sure we've selected all of it. Now it's going to go Shift-D, drag it up along the Z-axis till it sits kind of right about there. And now I can start making the vertical uprights for this opening. And it's going to go pretty fast. As long as we're making sure that we're only moving it where we want it to go. Sorry, hit the wrong button on accident. Something like that. Let's go back to the side view, grab it. Middle mouse button and drag to get it right there. Oops. Looks like I messed up. Let's grab it again. Something like that. Yep, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to grab that top polygon. Grab it, middle mouse button, drag and down. Something like that. And there it is. There I have a post. Okay. And I want to duplicate that 2 other times. Shift-D. There's one post right there. Shift-D. There's the other post right in there. Voila. Now we have a wall panel. If we turn off our reference image, yeah, now we have a wall panel, which is starting to look pretty good. I'm going to grab this bottom part one more time, Shift-D, grab it up along and move it up along the Z-axis. I want to use that exact same thickness to kind of create this small little roof, okay? So let's rotate this along the Y-axis, rotate along the Y, 90 degrees, voila. And now if we return to the side here and start getting this into place, we can start really quickly establishing the basic building blocks of our model. Okay, voila. I'm not going to go through every single sequential step here, but you can start to see how all this is going to be put together. Now, if you start to do this, we don't want to have any of these parts and pieces cross the middle line of our x-axis. I'll show you why here in a minute. So I'm going to just grab that, move it back somewhere right around there. That's good. And I'm starting to get the sense that this is looking like a train. So this is how we use the basic building blocks of our simple primitive shapes inside of Blender to start establishing the overall form and structure of our little train.